Oh, that's right. This doesn't play sound. Sorry, I keep forgetting this doesn't play sound when I go through OBS. I don't know why, but it doesn't. Hello, Sir Tim of Dowd. Hope you're well. Hello, KJ. Welcome in. Let's see who's all here. I'll start early and just... So we got Sir Andy, the hot dog pilot, Sir Ivo Fonson, Sir Jean of Ricard, KJ. We've got Sir Tim of Dowd, Sir Tom of Couples. So the CEO and the Sergeant at Arms are here. Hope the barkeep is okay. He has not been around online. Said he was under the weather a little bit ago. But, you know, was the video, when I was playing that video, does that play sound? Like when I do the live intro, can you hear this sound? Hey, Sir Digger of Evans. Yeah, that's not playing sound. I was going to say, that is something I can't sort out with OBS to StreamYard, is why my preset videos will not play sound. Yeah, so that's the first way to know that I'm on StreamYard, is that my videos don't have sound. I did a test stream earlier today and everything was great. And then I just decided to do another test stream about half an hour ago. Yeah, well, 45 minutes ago. And all of a sudden just crashing. I'm about ready to give up on this whole Verizon internet. It's becoming worse than my Buckeye cable. At least my Buckeye cable, you could reboot it and it would work. Saved us a lot of money going this way. Hey, Sir Chris of the Valleys, how are you? I'm not going to officially start until 2 o'clock, but since I was here and can't do all the intros anyhow, I thought I'd just come on and yak. Now, let's see. Pretty much everybody here is UK or mainland Europe right now. We are getting ready to go to Canada. We're packed. Literally, we're going to end this stream. I don't know if Joyce is going to come on or not. She has to leave work and then drive uptown real quick and pick up something from the union and then get back here and get ready to go. So, nah, I'm not going to sing. Hey, Sir Andrew of 156. And hello, Sir Greg of Great Northern. Great to have you guys all here. But yeah, it's... Joyce went back to work yesterday. She doesn't have students until Monday, but she had to report. Yesterday was in-service days, where basically a bunch of idiots try to tell you all the changes for the school year and all the new rules and try to tell you how to do your job when they've never done it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then today is final preps. Teachers have to be in their rooms setting everything up for students on Monday. So it's a rough weekend. And of course, when we decided to do this as a what the hell, we knew Joyce would be going back to work this weekend, which was sad because it cuts short. We can't get to Canada until after, we can't leave for Canada until she's done with work. And then, so we're going to miss a lot of the Friday afternoon activities and Friday evening activities. I think we're going to try to make it, hey, Sir Randall of Ellison, how are you? We do want to get up there quickly. quickly enough because Sparky is having people at his house, and we figure we're going to get up into Sparky's area about 9 o'clock. Now, the problem is we're leaving at about 4:30, 4:45, and we're going to hit Detroit at rush hour, which means all the cross-border people are going across the border. So we might get hung up at the border for a while. So I don't know. I mean, if you go early in the morning or late in the evening, it's not a big deal. But 5 o'clock on a Friday, it's going to be chaos. Because you have people that go to the Detroit casino, people are going home from work, and you do have people who live in Canada but work in Detroit, and vice versa. Live in Detroit, work in Canada. No, you really have to go through Detroit. Detroit is not bad. Detroit is not bad to drive through. The worst American cities to drive through, you start with LA. LA is just a monster beyond all monsters. But Atlanta and Chicago are really two of the worst after Los Angeles. Detroit is not bad. And unfortunately, because of media, Detroit, the city, gets a really bad reputation. You know, people call at one time it was called the murder capital of the United States. Actually, Detroit, I think, is top 15 in violent crime, but the cities that are at the top of the list are cities you don't think about, and they're mostly in the South and in the West. Memphis, Tennessee is very high on that list. I forget the town in Mississippi. A couple of places in Texas are very high on that list. You know, it's a little bit. But yeah, Detroit can be bad during will be bad during rush hour. But we don't get into the heart of Detroit. The exit to go to the bridge over Canada or the tunnels is just on the southern border of Detroit. Hello, Andre, wie geht's, wie steht's? I have never driven through St. Louis, so I can't attest to it. Detroit is a little hairy, but it's not bad. Chicago, Atlanta, to be honest, I find Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Ohio are Cleveland's easy to bypass, but driving through Cleveland can be crazy. Well, hello, Sir Mike of HO Trains. Welcome in. Congratulations on your big award. You're winning. Thought you've been here before, but there you go. Yeah, and unfortunately that was not true. It becomes a joke. It's like Cleveland. In the 1970s, because of pollution all along Lake Erie, both the Canadian side and the American side, yes, a river in Cleveland was so polluted and it caught on fire and burned for weeks. But that river now is full of fish. It's a huge popular fishing thing, but people will still make the jokes about Cleveland being polluted and dead and blah, blah, blah. But you know, because the jokes remain, or it's easy to make the joke because people, you know, it's where people have preconceived myths, so the joke works with them. But yeah, Detroit is not nearly as bad as people want to make out. But I could very quickly go into politics on that discussion, on the exaggeration of crime rates in this country, especially violent crime. Hey, hello, George, Sir George of Florida Railroad Dog. Now, for a couple of you that were in Mark from M&M Rail's Third Rail Thursday live stream last night, he had a model train that's been a bit of a long-running joke on his channel. I know I've seen it before, but I forgot the story behind it. But I was asking him a lot of questions because I have the exact same model. And he was asking SMT Mainlines why it's called an exclusive edition. And I was trying to explain. Brawa used to call their highest end models exclusive editions. These were limited runs, but these were supposedly their highest production models. And so he was showing this off. Now this is the same model, except this is Wechselstrom. This is AC 3-rail. It's a 3-rail edition. I bought this for like $50 off of eBay. The person didn't know what they had, or maybe they did. It had never been opened. The problem is they had clearly stored this in a place that got very hot and then very cold. So like a garage or an unheated basement. And the plastic has corrupted. Now, when I show it to you here, it doesn't look bad because it's all put together in. But the plastic is very brittle. And when I took it out of the box, I actually broke some pieces to it. I've been debating whether to throw this away or not because it's just not viable. I think the mechanics are good, but the connections and everything else, I've actually bought some new pieces, but Brawa does not make some of the other pieces. So I fixed what I could on this, but it's still not able to run on my layout. And the plastic on it is in such bad shape. I'm scared to touch it. But so those that were on his stream last night, this is why I was asking a lot of questions about it, because I have the exact same model. And if it didn't have something meaning to him, I would have offered to buy it off of him for a fair price, just so I could have the shell and some of the connecting pieces and just put the AC motor and chassis, because it's the exact same model. So the shell, the outer, would fit right on it, but it obviously has some meaning to him. Hey, Sir Mike of Trackside. Mike, we are not, Joyce went back to work yesterday, so we can't leave until she gets home from work. So I'll be on till about 4:15, because that's maybe 4:30. It's just when she gets home and is ready to go, because after work, she has to walk home real fast, grab our car, and she has to run up to her union hall and get something real fast before we leave. But so she's planning on trying to leave work about 3:30 and give her time to get the car, grab what she's got to grab, and go, unless she's thinking we'll grab it. Yeah, Digger, it's kind of a display only model. I just right now don't have a good place to display it. Hey, Sir Lee, how are you? Great to have you there. Send it to you. You'll take it off my hands. Yeah, I could probably do that. I still hold out hope that maybe I could get it running. But I did buy the upgrade from that, which is the BR442, the Talent 2. This is the Talent 1, and I bought a Talent 2. Unfortunately, that one blew a decoder, so it's sitting over there waiting for me to get a new decoder, because Roco said, oh, we don't make that decoder anymore. So yeah, we're driving up. As I was just saying, Mike, we are going to hit Detroit and the bridge right at rush hour. We're going to hit Detroit and the bridge around 5:30. Which that's going to be rush hour. So it's going to be probably a long wait in line sitting on the bridge, trying to drive through. It's going to be manic coming across. So the earliest we could get to Sparky's, if we left here at 4:30, we'd be at Sparky's at 8:30, maybe 8:45, because we do want to stop at the hotel and check in and then just drive the 3 minutes up the road to Sparky's house. But I would say somewhere between 9 and 9:30, if Sparky still has things going on at his shed, that's when we would get there. And we'll try to text. Yeah, any ESU would do the trick. I would then have to learn. The thing is, I do have the Märklin decoder programmer. Because the other thing, like Modell Bond Shop Lipa, they will preload. If you buy a decoder from them, they will preload it for you. So that option is there, other than the ugly T word. I am getting more and more notifications from my shops that I buy from overseas saying at this time we will not be shipping to America. Dear American customer, we value your. I have not heard from Lipa. I don't know what they're going to do. Märklin has announced increased prices to certain countries, meaning the United States. But yeah, it's going to be chaos. Hey there, Sir Tom of Houston. Welcome in. So anyhow, yeah, I actually had plans last weekend that I was going to put some grass on the under table display, but wound up getting involved in a couple other home DIY projects and that. So I didn't get around to doing that. By the time I had some time on Wednesday night, I just felt it was too close to the Friday live stream. So maybe I'll try to do it next week, but other things have also taken precedence. If you saw, and based on the minimal views, not many did. I'm going to be putting up some excerpts from past Matt Clark seasons and Christmas specials, just some bits that I think are funny. I have 3 full episodes written and done, ready to be produced. I've got the plot mostly scripted out, other than how long. So as I've been saying, within the next couple of weeks, the first episodes of a new series of Matt Clark. It's going to be an interesting one, because this series technically is going to be a one-off. It's Matt Clark and friends in Europe. It's going to be a one-off, but I have to set it up. So some of the first couple episodes, and because they're not in Europe, I had to spend a lot of time who's going, who's not going. And finally, Joyce and I sat down and I talked about some of the issues. And she said, why don't you just do some cut scenes so you can keep up with some of the characters? Like, for example, Cog Blocker is not going to be on the European trip. May Hurtya is not going to be going along. But yeah, we are actually, I was going to start recording voices last night, and then again, had some things I wound up having to do instead. So I didn't get down here to record, because I'm ready to start recording voices and get these first few scenes out. But it may be where I release a couple of scenes and then go 3 weeks and don't release a scene. Or I could just wait till it's all done. But since I promised they would return in 2025, I figure I should get at least the first few scenes out so I can keep my promise. Just like keeping my streak alive. I really should have just skipped today, but I'm quite proud. Okay, back to work you go. See you tomorrow. Okay, yeah, we'll be there tomorrow. We just won't be around until late tonight at Sparky's. But take care, and yeah, it'll be cool to meet you tomorrow. But talking about the trip to Canada, yeah, Joyce and I are, I think, more nervous than positively excited. It's not that we're not positively excited, but I think we're a little more nervous, because even though Getz was further away, we knew people better. The people we were going to meet at Getz and expecting to meet at Getz, we know them much better than the people we're going to meet. We don't, we exchange emails with some of the people at Getz, every now and then. Dino and I will swap messages. How you doing? Things are good. Hot Dog Pilot Andy and I haven't exchanged emails in a while, so I probably should get off the schneid. But I talk on the phone to Alan Wiles from Dragon Junction a lot. And I've met Andy from March West Junction. I talked to Christopher from Christopher's Hobby Blog and his various channels. I talked to him for a couple hours every week. So there were a lot of people there that we knew well. And going here, we don't know this group of people as well. We know them by name. We know their channels, of course. That's why we're going, because we feel like it's good, but we don't know them as well on a personal basis as we do everybody else. All right. So anyhow, why don't I go ahead and show you what I'm running today? I was just in a modern era mode, but also I really wanted to run all my ICs, but I decided not to run all my ICs so I could run some freight. Where are we at? 11 lane view. So today I'm running a container wagon, and I grabbed the Blue Tiger. I just was in the mood to let the Blue Tiger hunt. So I put out the Blue Tiger. Well, hello, Dave, Sir David of Sparky 107. You have to head out in 10 minutes. Guy, you just stopping in to say hi. I appreciate that. Hopefully, Sparky, you'll still have people. You'll be entertaining people, because we won't be up into the Cambridge area. If we're lucky, it'll be before 9 p.m. But we are going to be hitting the bridge south, in Detroit, the Ambassador Bridge. We're going to be hitting that bridge right at rush hour. So people going home from Detroit to Windsor, people hitting the Windsor Casino early, as well as all that rush hour traffic. I have no idea how fast or slow we'll get through. Once I get on the 401 out of Windsor, I figure I can make faster time than what Google projects. But it's getting to the 401, that's getting out of Toledo, getting up to the bridge. That's going to be the bit. Okay, so anyhow, I am running my 218, the AW Cottbus. 218 is running today as well. And then I haven't run my Austrian IC for a while, so I've got that one all set up with this guy. That is an 1116 and E64 Taurus. I just call them Taurus and 1116s, but I guess technically they're an E64 and ES64 or E64S. I forget the exact nomenclature. I'm sure somebody's typing it in as I babble. Yep, we will do that, or Joyce will be texting you while I drive. Whoops. Uh-oh. Houston, we got some problem. Whoa, stop. Come back. Oops, we had a little separation there. The Austrian IC uncoupled a bit. All right, let's get this guy in motion, pulling the Nuremberg Express. I did not set up the lights for him, so I don't think he'll have his tail lights flowing. And then I'm not sure why they elected to uncouple, but they did. You're going the wrong way, sir. Aha. All right, let's try it. Take two. Come on, get moving. Oh, aha. Sorry about that, guys. I'm stopping everybody for a second. Oh, rats. Hang on. These Fleischmann couplers do not want to stick together. Not sure what's going on here, but I'll just change them out real fast. Not sure why these Fleischmans are supposed to be the big pros at sticking together. Are you going to work together, guys? Let's see. Maybe we'll just do a 5-car express so I can sort out why these and then way in the back, I'm running my oh, that's right. So, I wonder why these now I can't see the chat, so you'll have to forgive me for a few minutes. Hey, Sir Raymond of Legs, how are you? Okay, so yeah, that guy is bent. That's what I don't like about those couplers. All right, well, let's just replace those couplers. Let's see, what's a good view? I mean, that's not a bad view. Oh, I got to get the floor going. Sorry. On the floor, we're running the Beatles Yellow Submarine. And let's see, do I have a couple of those couplers up here? I've got one. And there's two. Okay. That's the one thing I don't like about those old, I don't know, I always call, were these the Fleischmann Profi couplers? They get bent if you don't store them correctly, and apparently I don't store them correctly. And once they bend, they don't work. So I'll put a couple of universal couplers on them. The nice thing is they're really good space on these. The problem is, yeah, when I store them, they can sometimes lean into the shelf and it bends them. All right, let's get to a screen where I can actually see the chat. Yeah, the problem is that little flange bends out and then they just don't clip anymore. Let's go to yeah, you can see that little bit. Once that bends, it's useless. And both of them you can see are bent a bit. And once they're bent like that, they are useless. They just will not grab into each other. And yeah, they come apart too easily. All right. So I'm going to stop this train for a second. I'm going to stop everything for a second, except for the floor. So I'll let you watch the floor. If I can get to it. Floor cam. There. You guys watch the guys on the floor. I'm going to put these guys back in, but I really need to stop the whole show so I don't accidentally short something out. Connecting and disconnecting. All right, let's see if that works now. Get everybody back in motion. Well, hello, Simon. How are you doing, my friend? You've had a rough week here. Ah, darn it. Dudes. Oh. The internet was bad enough. I don't need the trains acting up. Okay, I think everybody is now back railed. Sorry, we had a derailment after I fixed those cars. Hey, Dino, how are you? It derailed again. Okay, that's just how day's going to be. Hey, Canadian. Yes, it's Friday already. A very hectic and busy Friday, too. Huh. Sounded like somebody derailed, but it either re-railed or my ears were playing tricks on me. Nobody there. Get that long distance shot. Well, welcome, Sir Leo of Limited Engage. Yeah, of course, if you're on the other side of the Atlantic from where I'm at, it's late Friday evening. Uh-oh. It's just going to be that kind of a day. Oops. It's you. I don't know what it is, but those two sets of cars constantly uncouple on that Javelin. I hate the way Hornby hooks up their Javelins, or at least their older Javelin models. I hate the way they hook them up. That pinion and ring bit, and that's very level track, but just as time goes by, or if the plastic warps, it's very easy for that, as the train's moving, to bounce and just uncouple like that. The D-hook couplers are a better coupler than that. Why Hornby came up with that one? I mean, especially for the price they charged for that. Can't help thinking cop car. All right, I'm just not winning today. Oh. Oh. What is going on today? Oh, it's going to be one of those days, my friends. Well, there's that. There's, I don't like to bash companies, but there are things every company does that makes you scratch your head and go, what were you thinking? Why did you do this way? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's the German one, this one right here. Yeah, and actually the thing is, I ran everything in more. I set them up on Tuesday. I ran them a little Tuesday, came down Wednesday for a bit with the idea of doing some recording of voices, and started running the trains, and then Joyce needed me for something. So I was like, okay, I won't record voices. You said yes out loud. And the funeral on Friday next week. Well, I'm very sorry for that. It means nothing. My grandfather, Dodge, died in 1976 at the age of 85. He hadn't reached his 86th birthday yet. And so almost 50 years ago. And I miss him to this day. And I mean, things in my world were already going bad when my grandfather died, but it always felt like his death really created a huge hole that just kept growing bigger and bigger and bigger. My family's dysfunction was already there before he died, but I think after he died, things just spiraled out of control. But, it went along with other things that happened. As far as a model goes, Dino, that's how I feel. And I would love the Javelin. with the setup that they have for the Azuma. If that Javelin was set up the way the Azuma is set up by Hornby, it'd be one of my favorite models. You love the N-Wagen? Yeah, that is the Märklin Nuremberg Express. I should probably turn its lights on here. As the Munich Nuremberg Express. I really need to renumber. There it is. I can't tell if their lights came on or not. Oh, no, that's not the Munich Nuremberg Express. My apologies. That's my ESU kit. I'm sorry. I told you the wrong one. That's not the Munich Nuremberg Express. Yep, that's the other one. That is not the Munich Nuremberg Express. My apologies. Those are the ESU cars. So it's just the N-Fair. So where do I have that one? The 482 control cab. There we go. So my bad. I thought that's what I grabbed because I just opened up and said, yep, single deckers. But no, that is not my Munich Nuremberg Express. My apologies, although I'm sure I've been corrected twice already. Well, hello, Sir Leslie of Gilpin. Nice to have you. You just got several River Rossi Pullman passenger cars. Nice. And Sir Clive of Newland Railway, I saw your latest video. Lot of nice stuff. I don't remember if I commented on it or not. My apologies if I didn't. I missed a lot of videos last weekend. I tried to catch up as I could. And then I been with packing today and even yesterday because Joyce felt we needed to pack last night. So we started getting everything ready last night because she's working. Yes, Evo, that is very true. The thing is, when I'm grabbing them out of the case, I'm only seeing the top and not the doors. And to be honest, when I put them on the track, I'm not paying attention. It should have dawned on me because the couplers are different. That's the first way I would tell you the difference is these have the Roco, universal couplers on them because the ones that came with the ESU cars were crap. Their attempt, very plastic, and was their attempt at the, how do you phrase it? Was their attempt at the Roco universal coupler. They were garbage. You got the last two Lehman Fowls. Yeah, I have not been looking at or buying trains because the train budget is now empty with a lot of the scenery stuff I bought, as well as I had to put money into a couple of other things here. But yes, the Munich Nuremberg Express has the doors on the end. But I know it sounds weird to you, Evo. You can't imagine somebody doing that. But when I grab cars, I grab them out of a drawer here, and I set them on the track, and I'm not looking at where the doors are. I just thought it was the drawer. But in my defense, it was the drawer where I used to keep the Munich Nuremberg Express, but I rearranged the drawers because the Munich Nuremberg Express was there. And this car set used to be where the high speeds are, but I bought another set of drawers and I moved those and I rearranged everything. And so in my brain, I was grabbing the Munich Nuremberg cars, but they weren't the ones in there. And so I just grab and put them on and run them. And literally I am zoned out. I am not looking at the cars. I am looking at the wheels. Is it running correctly? Blah, blah, blah. Because if I thought about it, I would have just said, oh, wait, no, this is the N-Wagen because it's got the universal couplers on them. Your laptop broke last week. Oh, crap. Speaking of laptops, I've still got ones. I finally got a box, Randall. It's only 3 months since I promised you a laptop. I've still got to figure out how to whitewash it without. I just want to I've deleted all my stuff on it, but, you know, it has memory. So I need to go in and do a factory reset on it. And then you can have this one, not this one, but that laptop I promised you a while ago. I've been waiting to get a box, and I bought a new laptop myself. Actually, I bought an old laptop. I bought a laptop on eBay for about $130. It's a Dell Inspiron that runs Windows XP. And I've loaded all these old Windows 95 and Windows 98 games I love because XP will still play them. And I've been playing a lot of old video games that I haven't played in a long time. Computer games, I guess. Well, I don't want to say it's not the one I wanted. It wasn't first choice. I would love to get a Danish, what is it? The ME. I think that's the right one, the ME. If not, and Jean Ricard's still awake, he can correct me. But I think it's the ME. Kind of looks like the tracks. I don't want the Noabs, which I think are the MX and MY, but I think it's the ME. Oh, I know, Randall, but I don't like saying I'm going to send somebody something and then it sits for weeks. I feel like I broke a promise. Even if you're okay with it, I'm not. Quake and Doom. What happened, Raymond? What did I miss? Well, if it's an extra large, I can wear it. Anything more than extra large actually is too big on me. I've had to throw away a ton of cool coats I bought over the years because they're 2X, and with all the weight I lost, they're too big on me. And even then, some extra larges are a little too small, but yeah, I just like the looks of the ME, and what is it? MCK just released, but it was by order only, special order. And I would love to have done it, but they were too expensive for the time. I could have put one on my Christmas list, but I would have had to wait till Christmas to pay for it. Ooh, you're tempting me, Randall. You have to send me a picture of it. I've still got a large Dodge Boys Have More Fun jacket from the 80s, but I can't, it doesn't fit me. It's too short. It actually fits me this way, but it's too short as a large. You want to save up for a driver's license? Yes, driver's license in Germany, and I assume in most of Europe are expensive. In America, it's if you're under 18 and you pay it's probably about $500 or $600 now for the driver's ed classes. I paid $300 to $350 for each of my kids for their driver's ed classes. And then the $25 it was to take the pre-test, and then the $25 or whatever it was to take the road test. But the American road test is not nearly as involved. And I don't know, does Germany still require that you have to show you can drive a stick shift to get a driver's license in Germany? Do you still have to do the stick shift? I have never learned to drive a stick shift. In Canada, you used to have to do it, but I don't think you have to do it anymore in Canada because automatics are so prevalent. 3,500 euros. Okay. Last I had heard, it was about 1,800 to 25 euros, but I haven't talked to German kids going for their license in about 10 years. So yeah, 3,500 euros to get your driver's license in Germany. Well, come to America, Andre. Do a student exchange for a year and get your license while you're here. Yeah, most cars are stick shift. I'm just wondering if to pass the test, do you still have to prove you can drive a stick shift? And then you need to save up for a car. Well, yeah, Simon, I do want one. I just don't know how soon that price would be feasible. Because I am kind of train broke. The last of my train budget is going to disappear whenever I see Artie again. Artie bought me some things in Austria, and Artie's talking about coming to America later this year, so I assume it'll be then. So I've had that money set aside, and that really is the last of my money. Although I am thinking of a trip to Ormondy's, and if I go to Ormondy's, I'm probably going to come home with a locomotive. But this trip to Canada, and then we booked a hotel. We booked a hotel a month ago for our trip to Columbus, and then we had to cancel because everybody got sick when we were going to spend the weekend and go to the water park and everything. And we had a minimum 50% guaranteed back. And we have not gotten our money back for that. And then we had to rebook the hotel for last weekend, and then this trip to Canada. So that was this trip to Canada really is out of my train budget. Well, that's the way to do it if you don't have to do it. But it used to be in Canada, and it used to be in Europe that you had to demonstrate that you could pass the test with a stick shift. And yeah, I know most of the cars in Europe are stick shifts. In America, it's probably 70-30 automatic transmissions. Well, John, that's not going to bankrupt me. If you buy trains on your own and say, I'm going to buy this for Anthony, if I didn't ask you to and you bought it on your own, I suppose I could start doing memberships and super chats just to get money off of people, but I don't do that. That is not a knock against channels who do that. That's fine. You do you. I just don't. I am gracious enough to accept gifts, but I don't actively pursue getting free stuff from people. I have an attitude. If I can't afford it, I don't buy it. But if somebody does, like Dino bought me this other Javelin I've got, the London Special Olympics Javelin, then you don't go cruel. But that's 25 pounds or whatever, 30 pounds, whatever it was. That's not 500 euros. At Caden, at Hobby Caden, when he got the MCKs in, they were the equivalent of about 500 euros. They just got new ones in. Now, I am fine with a used one in 3-rail. I'll happily take a used one. $200, $300 I can probably scrape up over the next month's paycheck. But I do have to start really actively paying down our credit card after our trip to Germany. Because we do put everything on the credit card. Wow, I have been on the same picture all video because I am. So let's do something different. Who can we? Yep, let's go a little bit more. Village view. A Prius. Oh, Evo, a Prius. The disdain I have for Prius. Going to the Javelin Depot this Sunday. Oh, that sounds cool. I think Javelins are gorgeous locomotives. The EuroStar and its relatives, the TGV and the Thalys. I still want a Thalys, and eventually I'll want a TGV. But I am sort of in a standstill with the layout right now because my 3D printer is on the fritz for some stupid reason. Not sure why, but I have recentered it. I have re-leveled it, and it's still printing too tight. And I designed some walls. I don't know. Do I have a camera that can show? Will the up the ramp show? No, you can't really see it. The village view would show it. Well, I'll leave this up since the train's coming in. You just bought 3 of the new ones? Wow. Yes, Raymond, I did reset it. That's the first thing I did. It's a Mingda Magician Pro. Yeah. But anyhow, I went out and bought some light green clump foliage. So I just got to decide where I'm going to put the static grass and then put this in random areas. And obviously I'll need more than this one bag, but they only had the one bag. The one hobby shop in town, Hobby Town USA, although they've dropped the USA part, now they're just Hobby Town. Every time I go in, it's like I buy stuff from them and I don't go in for a month or two and they haven't restocked what I last bought. They are really, looks like they are just selling off what they have, not for sale, not discounted, but they're just not going to restock any of their model scenery stuff. They used to have shelves of Walter's model kits and even some Keebry and Bush. And now they have like 5 boxes of Walter models like Merchant's Row and a Refinery. They are really, really, really eliminating their model train stuff. They used to have 40, 50 boxes of locomotives and a couple of 100 boxes of cars. Now they have like maybe 10, 15 locomotives and about 20, 30 no passenger, it's all freight. Yeah, Tom, it's the nozzle is too close to the board. And I have reset it and I've told it to do a reset. I've done things, but it starts to print. And then the next level, it's doing that. It may be that it can't handle the finer print, but it says it can. But yeah, it's just being really, really weird right now. I will mess with it more when especially now that Joyce is back to work, I'll have more, quote, free time. But it's a Mingda Magician Pro, which was super high rated because I started with an Ender 5 Pro or Ender Pro 5. I probably should have just gotten the Ender 3, but the Ender 5 Pro was supposed to be a big upgrade, including easier leveling and the 3-axis, the 3 mobile axis printing. And I could never get a decent print out of that. I finally gave up on it and bought a higher quality Mingda, and I got some good prints out of it, but I haven't used it much the last year and a half. And since I last printed with it, I've tried to do some prints, and they keep going. Saab is rare everywhere. This was the last thing I successfully printed with my Mingda. And as you can see, it really came out fairly nice. A little bit of hair, but overall, a very nice print. And I printed many buildings with the Mingda when I first was printing with it. But then I slow down, I stop printing, or I start doing more elaborate prints. And I think this is pretty elaborate. But yeah, all of a sudden, I've had some problems with it. I haven't needed to print anything, and now I'm trying to print simple retaining walls, and it's going crazy. We can't handle what you're doing. So yeah, I mean it's really nice. These buildings, actually, if I were to cut this building down here and just go with these two ends, that's 2 key buildings on Langestrasse in Delmenhorst. That would be the apothecary, the apotheca, the pharmacist, the chemist, as you say in the UK. And then this would be the, he has, it's changed. He's not there anymore, but there was a tobacconist here that was a real nice guy. The tobacconist here, but he also sold pocket knives and stuff like that. It's just one of those sort of odd knickknack shops, but he specialized in pipes, cigars, tobaccos. And then there was a little, there's been so many shops next door to him. Can't remember them all. Yep, Langestrasse. Well, let's get some trains in view. I don't, usually I'd stick it on this view and then not worry about it, but so many of you guys are on phones, and some people will text me or email me and say, when you go to the multi-view, I can't see it on my phone. I can't see the trains. And I'm like, I'm sorry. As I always say, I did design this kind of for me. And I watch it on big screen TVs, or even my monitor is really big, where on my monitor that I have here, each image is about as big as your average cell phone screen. Yeah, well, Evo, that's what this Mingda is supposed to be. This Mingda is, you're supposed to self-level it every couple of months, pop the STL in, and print. It's also got a big wide base because I'm printing large buildings. Because I originally bought it with the idea I was going to design and print the Delmenhorst Town Hall, which would be a big building. So I didn't want to get a small base. I wanted to get a big base to print larger buildings. Yeah, it's on Thingiverse. Yep, I got that off of Thingiverse. I just typed in HO buildings on Thingiverse. I've got about 9 different files off of Thingiverse for European style buildings. And then on Tinkercad, I've designed some very simplistic buildings that are very common in Delmenhorst. Do I have one accessible? I may not. I don't remember where I threw them. Ah, here we go. All right, I'm going to embarrass myself. All you IT pros are going to laugh at me, but that's the story of my life. This was my first ever design building print. Okay, this is nothing to write home about. But I designed this on Tinkercad. But there's one thing wrong with it. The roof needed to be a little bit longer. I need to have a little bit of a roof overhang. And this needs to be up higher. It needs to be, my second floor isn't high enough. It needs to be a little taller. The building needs to be a little taller. But this was designed with a thin, I could push that out if I pushed hard enough. I put that in there because there are different types of windows. For example, on the back, you can see it has 2 windows. But the thing is, these simplistic little buildings, there are dozens of these on the side streets and along Bahnhofstrasse in Delmenhorst. I just literally took pictures when I was in Delmenhorst, mapped them out, and drew them with Tinkercad. So, I mean, this is nothing. I mean, it is as simple a print as you can make. I get it. It's a simple a print. But it's exactly, I need about 7 of these, but with different window configurations up here. So on the back, I have 2 by 2. There are some that have where it's 3 across, some where it's 1, some where it's 1 tall, narrow one, a portrait mode window. So there are different windows on the top, but the basic building is the same. And then the doorways, some of them have a flush doorway to the front of the building. Some of them have a recessed doorway. So I did the basic model, and then I designed, okay, for a recessed doorway, I designed a recessed door. Plus, I have 10,000 spare doors from all the model building kits where they give you optional doors. Anymore. It looks okay. You guys are still talking. A lot of you, I'm no IT pro. Well, the thing is, I am late to the game in 3D design, and there are other people who got into it after me, and they're printing, and they've gone into business for themselves. I don't want to be taken the wrong way. It just shows you what kind of brilliant guy he was. But Mark, if you guys know Mark from Model Railway Fantasia, I had been 3D printing for 3 years, and he didn't understand. And he asked me, he says, Anthony, I'm thinking of getting a 3D printer. Could you make a video and simplify it for, and I'm using his words, simplify it for a dummy. So I made a video where I explained the basics of 3D printing. And yes, I know there's Thomas Grassi and Jim Tedesco and several of you in here, you're pros at 3D printing. But he didn't ask these guys because, as he would say, I explain things well. I explain the basics well. Some people want to, you ask about a car door and they want to tell you how to build the entire car, starting with the first screw in the motor. And so I did the video. He wound up getting 2 or 3 printers, and he went into business, and his prints were showing up everywhere, and people were praising them, how good they are. And it's sort of like, I just tell that guy how to do it, and he runs with it, and I still can't get mine to print consistently properly. It is what it is. How much does a 3D printer cost? You can get cheap ones used for that are decent quality, Ender 3 Pros used for 200 euros, or you can pay 1,000 euros. Or if you get a really super deluxe one that you don't need to buy, 1,500 to 2,000 euros for a basic filament printer. And if you're doing a resin printer, you can double those prices. That is a cool view, except I have to take that one hill out if I put the river in. Well. Yeah, the bamboos, a lot of people have them and are singing their praises. Bamboos weren't around it's been at least 3-4 years since I bought that Mingda. And when I bought that Mingda, it was the superstar. I mean, I researched what printer to get, price range, what I wanted to do, blah, blah, blah. And the Mingda was by far the highest rated. And now you don't see them. Now it's the bamboo. Everybody's getting the bamboo, and it seems to be flying off the internet shelves. Well, hello, Sir Erich and Sir Willy from Bandan Eisenbahn. Welcome in. I paid, with discounts, I paid about $450 for my Mingda Magician 10 Pro. But one of my last prints, something happened in the slice and I didn't catch it. And it went haywire. The print went off and part of the print got jammed under because it's the tray board moves. And it jammed up and I pulled everything out. And the next print I did went wrong, but everything seemed to be working. It just, again, getting the bed temperature right, getting the filament temperature right, using the correct amount of stick, bed glue and stuff like that. What happens is sometimes I don't get enough glue and it starts to slide. That's user error. Okay. Willie is back at school. Yeah, Joyce went back yesterday, although she doesn't see kids till Monday. Everybody's different. A lot of kids have been back for a couple of weeks in the area, but the big local districts start Monday. Hey, Sir Ray of Bertelson, how are you? And Sir Reg of GFX. Now it's a money pit paperweight. Sadly, I have heard, I know people that love their Anycubics, but I've heard a lot of bad about Anycubics. Anycubics are probably the most split, where probably I'm going to say they get the most negative comments, but they also get a ton of love. So I don't know what it is, whether it's individual model or this model's good, this model sucks. The Ender 3 Pros, still, I see more people using Ender 3 Pros than any other filament printer. And I should have bought an Ender 3 Pro, but that whole leveling and stability, everything, and the Ender 5 Pro was supposed to make it easier. And I could never get, I got some decent prints off my Ender 5 Pro, but I could never, the minute I started doing bigger prints, it struggled. Things went wrong. And one of the biggest things was I could never get the bed temperature right. And I kept getting that warping at the end. Even with the bed glue, you'd get the warping on the edges. I've got a few buildings here that have the warped edges at the end. And it's about the bed temperature and it cooling off too fast. One of the things we learned was you know, we've got a very drafty area back here, and I didn't have a cover on it. But even after I put the cover on it, it still would pull up on the edges. So I finally bought the Mingda. I definitely had a lot less pulling up on the ends, and I had some great prints, but I've only tried to use it like 3 times in the last year and a half, and I've had real major failures with it. Yeah, and the problem, what I see with the bamboos is they're not big enough to do some of the prints I want to do, but then again, I'm probably not going to do those prints. But I'm also, if I were to try to buy a bamboo, then I've got this monster Mingda, which is in the workroom behind me, that I'd have to get rid of. I gave my Ender 5 to my daughter. I don't know if she's done any prints with it yet, but she wanted a 3D printer. And so when I bought the new one, she said, could I have the old one? I was like, yes, because I need it out of the basement. I built my own containment unit. So I'm not having those kind of issues. I'm just having, in the last year and a half, the 3 or 4 times I've tried to print larger buildings, something's going wrong. And usually it gets so high up, and then all of a sudden something moves. The glue stops holding the base down, and it starts shifting around. But it's never, well, there is one consistent problem, which is once they get so high, everything starts going wrong. But that's because the print shifts on the board. I've toyed with the idea of getting a couple of blocks. Once the print gets so high, putting a couple of heavy blocks on it to keep it from moving. But the Mingda has a sort of a weight thing. In other words, it reads the print of the weight based on how it's going to move the board and all that. Train show in central Belfast. Well, I can't make that one. You have a P1S. Your brother has the A1 Mini with AMS. Okay. But yeah, I'm not going to invest in another 3D printer right now. I want to sort this one out. I've invested too much money in it. I want to sort it out, and I want to get working. But yeah, I have not tried to use this in months and months. And what I need to do is take it out of its containment unit and sit and watch it when I do the self-leveling and make sure. And I just got to go in and probably fine-tune some adjustments. Painter's tape with the glue stick. Well, you might have better painter's tape. The famous, God, normally I have a roll right here. Painter's tape here in America is garbage. The 3M blue painter's tape is just garbage. It won't stick to itself. Hey, Sir Ray Ron. Yeah, that's what they were just talking about, Ray Ron. So Ray Ron, a lot of guys are talking about the bamboo. But I still think I can get my Mingda working again. I just got to sit down with it and see what it's doing and then go through the manual and say, okay, this is what I need to adjust. I just don't use it that often. And it's just in the last week or so, I've been trying to print with it again because I'm just tired of trying to find. I want to do retaining walls, although I did mention in that video that in reality, it's natural slope tilts. It's not retaining walls. The problem is when I put my Fowler car in and the bus loops, to have the bus loops work correctly, I made it longer to fit because I made everything to scale. And that took away, I mean, I literally have about that much space. I don't know if I have about that much space between where the track is. And you got to remember the track's in the middle of the lane. So the lane's going to go here. So I really have about that much space between the highway and the, where the wall would go right now. So to put in a slope till in that space just is not feasible. So, you know, again, the compromises, the changes you have to make when doing it, I really think retaining walls are a better option. And I've got so much greenery in some of these areas that a retaining wall actually might break up that greenery. And then I'll put trees above it next to the rails and shrubs next to the rails. Yeah, mine can go down to 1.0, but it's one of those general heads that you can do different prints. But yeah, one of the things called for a fine 1.6, and I probably should just do it as 2.0. Brick arcades. No, just because in that area, the few retaining walls they have, because again, as I was mentioning, it's actually natural. There aren't retaining walls except near tunnels. There are a couple of tunnels between Bremen and Hanover. But otherwise, once you get so far out of Delmenhorst, it just levels off. So there aren't really retaining walls. I just need to go with retaining walls near the Fowler car, and then I can go with natural the rest of the way. But near the Fowler car, I've got to do retaining walls, and then I can do natural. I was thinking of doing retaining walls all the way across, but that did feel, as Tom Houston was telling me, that felt like overkill. Because that hill, I'm sitting here talking to you, not showing you trains, but let's go up the ramp. Well, let's go with the village view again. That hill with the windmill, that's gone. That will disappear once I completely build Delmenhorst. That hill will be gone. Because I have to expand the town that way and then put a road there. Actually, I don't even have to put the road, but there will be some buildings there. And so once I get outside the because my latest idea was to use toilet paper rolls and try to build a very narrow hill there and see if I could get away with cutting like a third of a toilet paper roll or half a toilet paper roll and curving it down and grassing it up and sticking a couple of trees on it. I just don't know that it would look right. If I could get some foam that was already curved, because cutting foam to curve is not easy to do with a foam knife unless you've got a curved foam knife. God, I swear I keep setting these cameras to stay focused. Yep, the focus turned back on that one. There, now it won't zoom in and out so much. Well, then again, that really... Well, I'm going to have to leave it that way because the minute I try to set it, the minute I take the focus off, it goes blurry. Yeah, I don't get that. That looks good. All right, well, let's call that good. There we go. I'm happy with that. Yeah, but again, in this case, EFO, this is one of those things where this is a real place, and I want it to look, especially the train station, which is why it was the very first thing I built before I knew my hands would debilitate beyond being able to scratch build anymore. Now let's go back to the village view. It is not a pretty train station, but it's the train station of my adopted German hometown. And I want it to be as accurate as possible. Even if you can't get all of Delmenhorst in, you can't get all the buildings I know and love. I can't put the Castle Island in. I cannot put the City Hall in. But the train station, since this is a model train layout, that has to be as accurate as possible. That's why the train station is built in terms of interior and exterior, 100% scale accurate. It's at full 187 scale. It's at true 187 scale. The only thing that is not in scale is the length of the outer platform, platforms 2 and 3. That's the only thing that's not in scale, because the table would have to be 15 feet deep to put in the scale length of platforms 2 and 3. But the truth is that scale length of platform 2 and 3, most of it is unused. So the used part is represented. So that's one of those things where I become a rivet counter. Set it and forget it. Good morning, Mons. Hi, Mon. We be jamming. I will admit, KJ or Coyote, I will admit I love the old Danish red passenger car liveries with the dark gray stripe down the middle. But yeah, the old Austrian red and gray cars are cool. I don't know if I would say they're one of the best ever. To me, they're definitely cool. I tend to be a whole train guy. Like, I love the rail jets. The Czech railjet and the Austrian railjet are the prettiest trains in the world to me. And then the ICE3 with that simple white and with red stripe, and then the dark tinted windows, which can look black at times of the day. For some reason, I just love that, which is why I love the Azuma 800 out of the UK with that white and then thicker red stripe going down the middle. But then, I can pick a top 3. And after that, like the blue Pullmans that go with the Midland trains in the UK. Those are old classic Pullmans. But God, I love those blue Pullmans. I think they're gorgeous. What I've got sitting next to me here. Let's see. Yeah, I keep going to this camera today. I'm not doing well moving the cameras around today. But sitting next to me here, this guy. This has jumped up into one of my favorite trains. Whoops, let's go that way. This guy right here, one of my favorite trains already. I saw the model last year on my friend Chesty Trains channel. And then I saw a few other channels get it, and I just thought they were cool. And then Joyce and I saw them up close and personal. And even Joyce was like, that's a cool looking train. And that changed, and that made the decision. So instead of getting the Baden-Württemberg version of the Desiro, I got the the National Express version, the Rhine Express version. You just looked at it on Google Maps. It's pretty ugly indeed. Yes, but it's like a pet dog. It may be an ugly dog, but it's your pet dog and you love it. Now, would I have been the same, if I had gone to, if I had done an exchange program where we went to Leipzig instead, and that beautiful Leipzig station, or Hanover, or even Bremen, or the new Berlin one. If I want to do modern, the new Berlin one. But oh my God, could you imagine trying to model the new Berlin train station? Those of you who know it, wow. I'd have to build a multi-level layout, because the train station is multi-level. Subway all the way in the basement, long speed, long distance traffic, regional traffic, S-Bahns, 3 different floors, and they all go out of the station at different levels. Yeah, Leipzig is massive, and there's a company that makes a model of it. And if you have a spare 500 euros, you can get it. But that includes the Leipzig station, the expansions, and then the cover and the expansion of the canopy section. So to me, it's worth the 500 if I were going to do Leipzig. I like the Dresden station fascia. Hamburg, I like the Hamburg station, but that's Munich. But Munich is a terminus, and obviously my layout would not really be a terminus. Actually, I think, no, Bremen's not a terminus. Yeah, Leslie. Potsdamer Platz does not have the same number of levels. They just have different levels of the subway. So they do have the same number of levels, but it's all subway. Mind you, I have not been to Potsdamer Platz since 2016. It has been 9 years since I've been to Berlin. I keep talking to Joyce like, we really should go back to Berlin and Potsdam without our students. And she's just like, we've been to Berlin and Potsdam so many times. We've been there so many times. We don't need to go there again. If we never return to Berlin, Joyce would not miss it. Joyce would not care. If I push, she would say, all right, we can go to Berlin. But anytime I say, we should go back to Berlin, she's like, why? We've seen it. Yep. I first visited Leipzig train station. Really, the only time I visited Leipzig train station was in 2014, because Joyce and I rode an IC2 from Delmenhorst to Leipzig, and then we had to change. And then we picked up another IC2 to take us to Dresden, which is cool because the IC2 locomotive and even the car numbers are the route we took from. So it's the right locomotive and it's the right rake of cars for the train we actually rode. We've got that in a couple of cases. The Railjet, the locomotive, I haven't ridden it, but I've been on the Railjet I have the model of. I've seen the actual locomotive and car numbers. And yes, they do trade the cars out and change, like this car can be car 24 on this consist, and then the next day it might be car 21 on the same route. But the number of the cars, 22 to 28, and the locomotive number I've been on in Munich station. I don't think Berlin slums are, quote, that bad. Berlin is a big city, but I have been on a trip to many big cities in Germany, and we've been in the rough neighborhoods. But the roughest neighborhoods in Berlin are not, they look decent. I could take you to some nicer neighborhoods in Toledo that don't look as good as the tough neighborhoods in Delmenhorst, Bremen, Berlin. So they might be dangerous neighborhoods. There are places I've been to in Hamburg where I've been there in daylight. You wouldn't want to be there at nighttime as a person like me. Okay, so it is, and the locomotives are changed. Well, I'm sure by now they had to have, this car broke down and they've substituted that car, but, But yeah, I have been on the train that had that locomotive running number and those cars. And what's the other one where I have been on that exact one? I have ridden the metronome many times, so it's quite possible I've been on a metronome pulled by the locomotive I have, but I never paid attention to it. The last time I rode a metronome was 2017, and I was just getting into trains. And I don't even think I had a model metronome then. And we rode a metronome from Bremen to Hamburg. We rode a metronome, and I'd have to ask Artie if we rode a metronome. Did we take a metronome this year? I don't think we did. I think we took a NordWestBahn up to Hamburg. Yeah, there's Alan from Dragon Junction just put up he built what is it? Not Hof. Han, I forget the name, the Bahnhof. It's an actual still existing German train station. Yeah, most things. God, there's at least one other train I have. Was it this one? Was it the new Modellbahn Union? I don't think so. One other train I have is the exact running numbers of a train, Joyce, and I have. Yeah, it's a Fowler kit. Because I have the Kehl, Kehl, which is one of the last train stations you can get on the German side before you go across to Strasbourg in France. Because Joyce and I were going to go to Strasbourg in our 2023 trip in Germany. We wanted to go up to Strasbourg, and we just decided it was too much hassle and a little bit too expensive. But we would have gone up to Kehl and then switched trains and then taken a train from Kehl to actually taking the local. There's basically a local commuter train that runs from Oppendorf to Strasbourg. Well, Raymond, I got you. The fact is, no matter when you die, there will be something you didn't finish. The minute you finish one thing, you move on to something else. That is the story of us humans, is we always die unfinished. Well, I understand that. At 18, I'd never had a date, didn't think I'd ever meet find a woman that would like me. And then a year later, I hooked up with Joyce. I didn't date, never had a date, and then I met Joyce and got lucky there. Won the lottery, as you would say. Work on this one. Yeah. Next one. There it is. Okay, there we go. There, I figured out a way. Yeah, always a project to do. You're 21 and you're single. I was 23 and Joyce was 21 when we got married. No, I was still 22. I was 22. I hadn't turned 23 yet. And Joyce was 21 when we got married. Joyce had just turned 21, and I had not turned 23 yet. And in this day and age, that was considered still kind of young to get married. Joyce's one sister was 19 when she got married, and they've been married for 40-some years. A burger, probably in your case. So, yeah, it's... I don't want to be too maudlin there, but it's... As I always point out, I am very aware of... All right. Take care. Thanks for hanging out with us, Reg GFX. It was a pleasure to have you. You have a great weekend yourself, whatever you're working on. Nah, I hate to say it, Digger, but if I had to give up one or the other, the trains go. There's no foreseeable reason. It's such a bizarre hypothetical, but if Loki, the trickster god, put me in a situation where I had to either give up my trains or give up Joyce, it's not even there's not even a moment's hesitation. The trains go. I have fun playing with my trains, but I have more fun playing with Joyce. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a simple one. It's still in progress after all these years, but man, I've done more work on it in the last 4 months than I did the past 4 years. Eh, bonsoir, Titi Harry. Comment ça va? You were advising the single people. I appreciate that. Très bien, très bien. Wasted life. I really should have learned to speak more French. I know just enough French to get me into trouble and out of trouble. And I'm the same with Spanish, although I can read a little bit more Spanish than French. And Dutch, there are days where I feel like I do pretty well understanding Dutch, and then there are days where I'm just, nope, I'm lost. Same thing with Danish. I hear Danish and it's garble, 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 and then all of a sudden there'll be like 3-4 lines that sound enough like German that I know what they're saying, and then garble, garble, garble again. And it's not that their language is garbled, it's just, to me as an outsider, it sounds garbled. A bachelor, yeah, we can start going with all those jokes. Nope, I had an aunt that got married 3 times, and my dad's oldest sister. And it was like, really? 3 times? Now, granted, her 3rd husband wound up, she stayed with until death did them part. But yeah, you know, her first 2 husbands both wound up in jail. And from what I understand, the one that I was gone before I was born, her first husband that wound up in prison was a real abusive, nasty monster of a human being. Danish is funny Deutsch. It really is. But it's like the Scottish dialect, the various dialects of Scottish. There are times I can hear a very, very thick Pictish accent, and it's like, yeah, I understand it very easily. And I hate when I watch videos of people from Australia or Ireland or Scotland, and I'm understanding them, and you get all these, and it's Americans. It's always Americans going, God, they need to get a translator so I can understand what they're saying. And it's like, no, maybe you just need to listen. Raymond, you are probably more on the ball, and you're probably aware of that, since Dutch is the closest living language to English. Even though English is a Germanic language, we are, and a lot of times people refer to it as Anglo-Saxon, but actually English is not Anglo-Saxon, it's Anglo-Frisian. It's Anglo-Frisian with heavy French and Latin influence. I don't think Danish sounds English at all. It's just every now and then it'll sound very German, and I can understand what they're saying, and then all of a sudden it's gone again. It's like, wait, were you speaking German just to tease me and then went back into Danish or what? Speaking of Danes, there's Jean Ricard. Yep, all you got to do is mention that Danish sounds anything different than Danish, and Jean will wake right up and, how dare you? Well, Rayron, linguistics is one of my college degrees. Linguistics is one of my degrees. So every now and then I have to use it to justify the extra courses I took. The thing is, I did a lot of cross-fertilization. You know, about 6 of my linguistics classes also counted towards my English degree. And a couple of my English classes counted towards my linguistics degree. So normally, if you're just going to get an English degree or linguistics degree, you would have had to take 16, 17 classes of each. But as it is, I took like 25 classes, 28 classes combined, and it covered both sides. So I got a BS in linguistics. No, of course not, KJ. Now, I have sat with Danes and Norwegians and Swedes and listened to them all give each other grief. I have sat both in person and in live stream chats like this and had Danes, Norwegians, and Swedes give each other grief. But at the same time, they can talk to each other in any of the languages easily. A Swede seems to understand Danish. A Danish understands Swedish quite a bit. Norwegian understands both. Yeah, I did basics of Latin, but never studied Latin in and of itself. Latin was, I had to take a couple of courses in Latin for my linguistics degree. I had to take rudimentary Latin. And the last French I took French in 7th grade, 8th grade, and was our school was on trimester, so it was only a third of a year. So I had French, and then I had to teach this class for a couple of years called Introduction to Foreign Languages. So I had to go back and take a refresher course in basic French, because I mean, all we were doing was we were going to teach them how to say hello, goodbye, a few basic phrases like where is, hello, my name is, how are you, basic stuff like that. And because basically it was like 3 weeks of French. They would have 3 weeks of French, 3 weeks of Spanish, 3 weeks of German, 3 weeks of Russian, and 3 weeks of Latin in a quarter. Actually, it was more like 4 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks, 4 weeks. But some of that was testing and other stuff that wasn't actual lesson. Yeah, on the Swedish version of Muppets, the chef was Norwegian. Yep. There goes Chris going, okay, we're going to bring in the Asians there. We're going to bring in the Asian languages. My thing is, I would have liked to have gone further with Latin, and I'm going to apologize to a lot of people in the distance, but I never met a Latin degreed person I liked. Even colleagues that taught Latin, when I became a German teacher and joined a foreign language department, the Latin teacher was so annoying. Like, everything Roman and Latin was the end all be all of the world. Anything the Romans wrote was the truth. Everything the Romans did was excellent. The Romans never tortured, murdered, blah, blah, blah. They were civilized and everybody else was barbarians. And I can't stand that attitude. Let's go to the shirt I'm wearing today. Boy, it was almost psychic. Subliminal psychic here. But my German heritage really got sick of, let me see. Well, I'll go this way. This is a shirt I bought in a town called Bromsche in Germany, which is where in the year 9 AD, the German tribes wiped out 3 Roman legions. The worst defeat the Roman legions had since Cannae. The Battle of Cannae. And yeah, I just never could get along with, You know, the teacher that taught me that I learned some Latin from was like, well, English is a Latin language. And I'm like, no, it isn't. You're in the linguistics department and you're claiming English is a Latin language. No, it's a Germanic language with Latin influence. It is not a Latin language. 70% of the basic vocabulary of English is Germanic. And the grammar is neither Latin nor Germanic. It is a hybrid grammar. And then when you add the French influence and French spelling influence, English is a bastard language. Roman Republican legions were the greatest of all time. I'll disagree with you. 2013. What year? 2014. 2014 was the last time I visited Bramsche. Teutoburger Wald, yep. Because for years they thought it was down by Detmold. And you've got the famous statue of Hermann, the Hermann Denkmal in Detmold, which I've been to and seen. But hey, while we're doing that, why don't I just have some fun here? Add image. I just hope everything's, yeah, we'll just call it image 8. Browse. Yeah, not there. My passport. Working on it. Come on. Trips to Germany. 2014, because it was the year Anka died. So there is the famous cavalry parade mast that was found there. But yep, I've been there. Oh yeah, they definitely didn't handle the Irish very well at all, and they definitely didn't handle the Scots. Hadrian's Wall was not built to keep people in, it was built to keep the Scots out. They couldn't handle the Scots. Yes, he did. See, I could start some trouble with all my UK friends here and point out how many of their greatest military victories involve very few Englishmen. Hey, Curly, Sir Dwight, how are you? Blucher, that's correct. I saluted and waved at several statues of Blucher. Because even at Waterloo, over half the British Army was German and Dutch conscripts. Yeah. Now, see, that parade mask I just showed you, that parade mask, that would have had gold or silver originally on it. And after the Germans' tribes wiped out the Roman soldiers, it is surprising they didn't even take the mask and just melt the metal down. But they clearly pried out the gold plate that was attached to it and left the plate and took the gold. Wait, did I just say the wrong thing? I thought he was a famous general from Dublin. Blucher. Frau Blucher. That's a different thing. But yeah, let me just do some entertainment. Well, it's not entertainment. My passport, Dumb and Horse trip. '14 pics. Cottbus. I don't know if any of these are. All right, so let's do this. Add window. A much younger and heavier me. This is at the Scotrails in Bramsche, which is pretty much now confirmed by most archaeologists and scientists and such as the location of the battlefield. Just some of the stuff they found, a lot of Roman tools and so forth. But of course, when I was a kid and first learned about this battle, this is a site where they are recreating, because what the Germans did, it was an amazing setup. But they're rebuilding it. But this is when I was a kid. I'm going to remove that now. When I was a kid, the historians did not know where it had occurred, just somewhere in this part of Germany. And at the time, they thought the Detmold area was the likely occurrence. But it was always taught to me in all the books I read that it was a one-day battle. Now they say it was anywhere from a 3 to a 7-day battle, and 5 seems to be the average, that it was actually multiple days that the Roman soldiers would fight using their shields as sort of a fortification. And then when the German attack stopped towards the night, they would build up some fortifications and then try to march a little bit on, so that it was actually a multi-day battle. No, that's the opposite of the old joke. He has a Roman nose. Why? It's Roman all over his face. But, the problem is history is written by the victors, or if the victors can't write, then it's written by apologists of the losers. And so there are only 6 Roman writers who write anything about the Teutoburger Valve. And really, it's like there were 2 guys who probably did most of the research, and 4 guys who just based their writings on these 2 guys' work plus their own additions. Because there was Subius, or Swabius, he first wrote about it, but sadly, most of his works are destroyed. But what is surviving, he apparently interviewed both the very few soldiers, about 500 soldiers escaped and made it back to Rome. But about 14 AD, 15, about 6 years after it, the Romans did a small invasion and actually attacked a couple of German villages, where they actually found some captive Romans who were members of the legions that were destroyed. they had been enslaved and they were freed. And this Subius guy interviewed both some of the survivors and some of these slaves who were also survivors to what happened. But most of his work, probably 75, 80% of his work, based on what he says of how much he wrote, is gone. And then there was Marcellus. And it's been a few years, but I think Marcellus is the other one, or Marcus or Marcellus. And they're getting bad, Ray. They're getting bad. And it is possible he interviewed, but he was years later that he might have interviewed a few older survivors. But the guys most famous, the guys whose information is most quoted, Tacitus was writing 90 years after the battle. And half of what he wrote, he made up. There is Cassius Dio. And most of what Cassius Dio's, he stole from the first two guys. But then he's writing around 50, 60 years after the battle. And Tacitus quotes a lot of Cassius Dio. But both these guys were at a time when Rome had now kind of achieved its first glory of empire. And they were of that attitude. Rome couldn't lose. Rome, there's no way Rome could have lost. Rome can't lose. We beat Hannibal. There's no way we could have lost to a bunch of barbarians. And the Romans just could not handle it. And so they had to blame the general, Varus. Varus was an imbecile. Varus was a moron. Varus led his men into a trap. Varus was warned that he would be betrayed. That's true. He was warned. He was warned that the guy who betrayed him was betraying him. The problem is the guys who were warning him were people that had been fighting against the Romans just a year earlier. And the guy that they were saying was going to betray him had been in the Roman military for 30 years. The Germans call him Hermann. The Romans call him Arminius. Historians say, well, his name was not Hermann. Arminius. His name was probably something like Arnhem. But the fact that so many books refer to him as Arminius, because that's what the Romans call him. Well, the thing is, whatever his name was, he was the son of a German chieftain. He wouldn't have had a Roman name. And when his tribe was conquered, the Cheruscer were conquered, he was sent to live in Rome as a hostage. Basically, you know, dad, behave or we kill your sons. And he grew up in Rome, where he was clearly prejudiced against because he joined the Roman military. He joined the Roman cavalry. He was a great leader. He won awards for the Roman military. And he won all the honors he could, but he was always treated as a second-class citizen when it came down to it because he wasn't Roman by blood. He was a barbarian. He was a German. So the prejudice and the things blocking him from achieving greater things probably burned on him. The way his people were treated probably burned on him his entire life. And he set up a plan, and it was a brilliant plan. And Varus was not an imbecile. Varus had served very capably in the eastern provinces. The only thing you can say about Varus is he did not know Germania. He did not know that region. He had been pulled out of the east because the general who was supposed to lead this latest invasion got killed. And Varus was the most trustworthy general and most worthwhile. Varus did a pretty good job in his role in the eastern provinces. And so he came up with the plan. But what they did was the road the Romans normally take south was along the Lipa River, as in Modell Bonshop Lipa. But Arminius or Hermann, whatever you want to call him, had convinced Varus, who didn't know the area, that that's where the rebellion, because the Romans were coming up to quash a German rebellion. He said, that's where the rebellion's really strong. Those are the tribes that you fought last year and the year before, and that's where they expect you guys to go down this road. So don't go down this road. I know a different path. It's a few miles north. It's near the Weser River, and we'll go this way. Because the Romans were actually on their way home, having massacred a couple of villages, and that'll teach them. And they were actually on their way to winter quarters when they got wiped out. But what they did was, the area he was leading them into was swamp to the north and hills, but because he had Roman military of how they marched, the German tribes, all the local tribes, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe a couple of 100,000, they expanded the swamp closer to the hills, and they created a fake hillside. They created a fake hillside, and that's what those pictures are showing you. And they just used wooden fencing and then put brambles over it and made it look so that the Romans, instead of marching in their usual 4x4 or 4 wide or 8 wide formations, had to march in 3s or even 2s, which they were not accustomed to doing. Even their defensive battle plans when ambushed was based on being stacked 4 across or 8 across. And he suckered them into march where they had to march tight, and then hidden in those fake hillsides were thousands and thousands of Germanic warriors. And the Romans the fact that the Romans lasted 5 days, probably outnumbered easily 5-1, if not 10-1, is a testament to their fighting skills, but it was a brilliant plan. So there, for the 5 people that are still left, that was a history lesson. And people talk about, well, why do they think the battle was there? They've never found anything. Well, actually, they have found more there than anywhere else. Where for years, historians thought the battle took place based on Cassius Dio's writing and so forth, where they think the battle took place. They've never found anything. But in 1987, on some farms in the Bromsha area, they found a farmer was digging up his crops, and he found a big bag of Roman coins. So a British colonel asked if he could bring, because he was a metal detector guy and a historian, a British colonel, because the British Army was still stationed in this area in the 80s. In fact, Delmenhorst had, when I first visited Delmenhorst in 2003, Delmenhorst still had British Army barracks just outside the city, which have now been torn down. But when I was there in 2003, the British Army had already left. But in 1987, they're still there. And Bromsha is about an hour southeast of Delmenhorst. But anyhow, this colonel grabbed the metal detector, and he found bags and bags of coins. When they investigated the coins, none of the coins were dated after the year 8 AD. Most of them were, they had different Roman emperors, and they would have the year of Rome on them in many cases, but none of them were from mints after the year 8 AD. So that became very curious. Nothing is booked. The newest coins in these bags were from 8 AD. Okay, that's a big clue right there. Plus, if you know, when Roman soldiers went into battle, especially when they thought they were being ambushed, they would dig pits and bury their stuff, and even mark them somehow, and then go fight the battle. And then after the battle, they'd come back and get their pay and all their special stuff. So they found hundreds and hundreds of coins. And then they dug more, and they found some Roman tools. Okay, this is weird. The Romans didn't live in the area. Why are you finding Roman tools here? In some cases, it was leather sacks, or, leather. So leather can survive. It can desiccate. But they were finding the coins, that had been in bags. So yeah, they found all that stuff there. But then the biggest thing is when the farmer allowed German archaeologists to really come in and excavate it, the first big thing they found was that mask. And that's a Roman military parade mask. So then they began thinking, all right, maybe this is where the site. And then really maybe even the biggest find was they found the bones of 2 Roman soldiers, a horse, and the remnants of a wooden carriage, including all the bolts. The wood had rotted away, but clearly it was a Roman military wagon. And that started making them think, okay, this was a Roman military. And the only time the Roman military was in this area at all was Teutoburger Wald battle, or the campaign to get revenge for it, which the Romans to this day exaggerate. Oh yeah, we went in and killed 20, 30,000 of them. No, they didn't. They butchered a couple of villages and left. And then claimed they won this big mystical. You blame Indiana Jones? Yeah, they then found, I was getting to that, EPO. They then found at least part of a Roman armor set, which to many people now clinches it. That this was definitely, but Detmold for years argued, no, it was here. And finally they've conceded that, yes, the Kalkriese, which is the hill and that region where they found this stuff outside of Bramsche, that's where the battle took place. But they have found all kinds of things. But people say they've never found spears. That's because the Romans took it. And people say, well, they've never even found bodies. They found a couple of horses and carriages. Yeah, they didn't find the bodies because the Romans took the bodies and mutilated them and then scattered them in the woods, the swamp area that was north of the battlefield. The Roman soldiers that were brought back said they watched the dead and the dying get mutilated and massacred. Their bodies were cut up, burned, and thrown everywhere. Yeah, they say 80 to 90% complete. I've talked to the guy there. It wasn't that far. But yeah, that's most 80 to 90% complete. I think the thing is they have found other pieces that maybe weren't part of that actual uniform, but then it fitted it out and said, hey, this all fits. So, yeah, I've seen the armor suit or the model of the armor suit, because the actual one is usually being analyzed. But when I was there, it was being analyzed, and they had a model of the suit on a stand, the full suit, a replica. But anyhow, be that as it may, it's it's a great example of when history does get written by the losers, the twist they put on it. But yeah, it's very fascinating because I was always into military history, always into ancient military battles. And then my German history, my German pride always liked the fact that, we whooped the Romans there. You have some great snakes in Australia. Yeah. Videos from the only time. History is always wrong. Yeah, history is always, I don't want to necessarily say history is always wrong, but history is always biased. Things happen in history, and it's hard to say. Since we weren't there, we don't know what happened. We really don't know what happened. But there are things you can do, archaeological evidence that can give you suggestions of what's there. But the problem is you sometimes get a archaeologist or a scientist who is so biased in their views. Like like when I'm getting a Roman history and the person is a lover of Rome, and they ruin the concept of science, which is let the facts that are presented speak. They want to interpret the facts based on their bias, even if the facts disagree. And this happens even in paleontology. There is so much. When I grew up, dinosaurs were cold-blooded. And then all of a sudden in the 70s, theories came out that they were warm-blooded. In fact, the original theories of dinosaurs, when they began analyzing them in the 1800s, was they were warm-blooded. Then nope. They were clearly cold-blooded. And now most evidence suggests that dinosaurs were at least, they jokingly call it lukewarm, that they might have been somewhere between warm-blooded and cold-blooded, but that many clearly were warm-blooded. But there is a top British paleontologist, David Norman, who just book after book, everybody else in the world is wrong, I'm right. Dinosaurs were cold-blooded. Because these original scientists said they were cold-blooded and they're right and everybody else is wrong. And when you have that sort of mentality, then you shouldn't be in the business of interpreting the past, because you want to interpret the past based on your preconception instead of let the evidence speak for itself. And that is always a danger. That's always a danger. But if you can con people and get people, you promote your history. That's what Hitler did in Germany. He created a mythical version of their history. Just as the Israelites created a mythical history. There is no evidence. There is no archaeological evidence that there was the Exodus, or that the Great Plagues troubled Egypt, or that the Israelites were ever in Egypt as slaves. There's no archaeological evidence of that. And even in the Stone Age, it would only take you a week or two to go across the Sinai, not 40 years. Yeah, brown snakes I'm lucky. That's the one thing I'm scared of, going to Australia in October instead of June. When we were there in June, it was winter, and a lot of the poison, nasty stuff were hibernating, shall we say. Although we were told that the brown snakes are not aggressive as long as you leave them alone. That, if you are walking down the sidewalk and a brown snake goes across, just stay back. It's like rattlesnakes. Rattlesnakes will not come after you, but if you step on one because you didn't see it there and you didn't hear the warnings, yeah, it'll bite in self-defense. There are other snakes, like cobras, will chase you. Black mambas, they'll see you and come after you. You're too close to them if they can see you. Yeah, Chris, I agree with that. But also, the problem is, if you look for evidence for what you believe, you'll find it. But they'll also miss evidence that would prove you wrong. I love watching the British show, the UK show Time Team, which has been going since the 1990s. They just recently brought it back. I love the show because I love archaeology and I love history. But you listen to these guys who, it's definitely Stone Age. Nope, it's definitely Roman. Nope, and they fight and fight and fight. And you always have one guy that, that's not the way Romans did it. Another guy says, but we have evidence that Romans did things different. This is not Anglo-Saxon. Yes, it is Anglo-Saxon. They all fight. because unfortunately the evidence isn't ever conclusive one way or the other, because nobody left a stone that says we were Anglo-Saxons here. And my life study of history has always been, I read multiple books on the same topic. I want to hear all the different views. And then if I read 5, 6, 7 books on a topic and these points they all seem to agree on, I tend to say that's probably close to what happened. But it's like, you know, if you grew up in any sort of Abrahamic religion, you're familiar with the term Armageddon, the final battle, Armageddon. But Armageddon, of course, comes from the term Megiddo. Megiddo is a town and a hill near Sinai. Not in Sinai, but it's near there. And Megiddo was the site of multiple battles between the Hittites and the Egyptians and all the other races of people that fought in that region. And it just became a local term that whenever everybody was going to fight, they would meet at Megiddo, Armageddon. The hill of Megiddo, Armageddon. And since so many battles were fought, they're big, important, major battles in human history. The locals basically figured all important battles in human history, including those in the future, would be fought there. Armageddon. But if you read Egyptian versions of, like, say, the Battle of Kanesh versus Hittite versions of the Battle of Kanesh, who won the battle? The Egyptians won a massive strategic victory. The Hittites won a massive strategic victory. Odds are it was a draw, because both countries immediately signed a treaty saying we would stop invading each other. So it was clearly a bloody battle. But you have history books that say here's exactly how the battle happened, except the only views of how the battle happened are the Egyptians saying here's how our army fought, and the Hittites saying here's how our army fought, and they disagree with each other to a large extent. Well, we got to be careful. Chris, remember, no religion, no politics. We're talking history here, so that's technically religion and politics are a part of history, but we try to keep those two parts out. But Joyce is not here yet. Or if she is, she didn't come down and tell me she's here. So I need to nag her and go, honey, where are you? Oh my goodness. I am sick of this. Google makes me sign into everything every half hour. And because I'm monetized on YouTube, I can't turn it off. But yeah, a Pyrrhic stalemate. See, a great example of where it's so tempting. It is so tempting to throw a obvious interpretation into something, is that sometime in the 12th, 13th century BC, something climactic happened. There is evidence that there was a major earthquake in the eastern Mediterranean Sea, in the water. And we know that at that time, the Egyptians talk about a sudden failure of crops over a 100-year period. We know the Mycenaean Empire fell apart around that time. And then Egypt talks about being invaded by the Sea Peoples. And for 100 years, the Sea Peoples ruled. And is it possible that as the Mycenaean Empire fell apart, the people escaping went down to Egypt, invaded while Egypt was weakened, and took over? There's a lot of non-evidence to suggest it all seems to link together. But you can't say it. But I know historians will say that's definitively what happened. Ancient Atlanteans had trains. Prove me wrong. You're wrong. They had submarines. Well, we could talk about that too. I mean, the Texans lost the Battle of the Alamo, but they killed a lot more Mexican soldiers than the 180 some odd that died in the Alamo. Win the battle, lose the war. Lose the battle, but win the war. From Trains to Archaeology. Hey, Raymond, I like to keep a well-rounded thing. I just want to make sure we don't step too far into the realms that annoy people. Because, like, Chris and I, on Facebook, seem to share a lot of similar memes and ideas and messages. So that's when I have to really be careful, because that's where I got to make sure I'm covering everybody. Yeah, I'm going to have to wrap this up anyhow. I have no idea where Wifey Pooh is. She hasn't responded to me. And we're supposed to be leaving in a couple of minutes, but at least I keep my streak alive. Is it pathetic? I could have easily made my day easier by refusing to go live, but Joyce was going to work until 4:30 anyhow, so why not go live? Hey, Kiwi Dave, how are you? Believe it or not, I am getting ready to end this live stream because I have to hit the highway. And hopefully the highway doesn't hit back. But I got to make sure everything's turned off and hunky-dory here. I didn't want to do that. Okay, I think we're good there. Good there. That's off. That's off. And just give me a second. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was hoping Joyce might be able to pop her head in for a few minutes, but obviously. I don't even think she's come in yet. I did not even hear her come in to grab her car keys to. Oh, that's right. She said somebody was going to drive her down there. Okay, so yeah. So anyhow, somewhat abbreviated. I mean, normally I go 3 hours. It's 2.5 hours, but I did start an hour early, so I'm ending an hour and a half. But I really want to get on the highway and get to where we're going. It's going to be. I haven't driven 4 hours myself in a long time. About 3 hours is about the longest I've driven a car in a long time. So I'm a little bit, I don't know, leery is not the right term, but I I don't enjoy driving the way I used to. Trains ruined me. All those years traveling by train in Germany and even in the UK, where Joyce and I did not rent a car, and Australia, where we rented Artie. So we've never had to rent a car and drive. We've been passengers or just rode mass transit. Now, the highways, there's too many crazy people. And I was always a fast driver, but now you try to do 80, 85 in a 75 zone, and there's somebody in the middle lane who wants to do 105 right on your bumper. It's like, go around. But they want to ride behind you and make you go faster rather than just go around. And yeah, I don't enjoy driving like I used to. My nerves with dumb drivers is worse. Well, I've driven 20 hours straight at one time. Well, there were potty breaks, but we left Toledo at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and we arrived in western South Dakota at 8 a.m. We stopped in Chicago for dinner, and then I drove straight across with a hour-and-a-half break in eastern South Dakota. Joyce tried to drive for a little bit. Instead, she turned green because she was overtired, and I just kept driving. We decided to see how far we could drive in that shop. So anyhow, I want to thank you all for being here. Hope I didn't say anything too offensive. I didn't annoy anybody. Or if you felt I cut you off on something, please forgive me. Just understand if you let a little in. Oh, Joyce is going to come in and wave real quick.
Come down here and just say hi or bye or whatever works.
Yeah, I'm wrapping up.
Yeah, I can do that. So hi, everybody. Oh, this is a crazy time of year for a teacher. And probably for parents and everybody else. So
yeah. Hey, Sir Aaron. Actually, you're not allowed to drive with your fog lights on anymore. So Joyce has come to say hi, but yeah.
So again, I'll just do a blanket hi. I don't have it on, so
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyhow, on that note, we're off to Canada right now. So we're gonna say Auf Wiedersehen.
Cheers.
And happy trains. Thanks for joining us, and take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Bing.